Hey everybody, welcome to our September live at Voices from the Mausoleum. I am Steve. We
And
got
y'all know me, I'm
we
Angel.
got Angel. I'm doing the intro today.
That's right.
So,
Yay.
well, you know what? It's our first live. Well, no, it's not our first live together, like
Right.
ever, but
Yeah.
it's our first live like in this new partnership we've got
Yes. As a team.
as a team.
Yeah.
And so we thought, what better way to ring in our first live than to talk about like our favorite movie ever,
Yeah.
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
it's so funny because I think when we originally became friends, it wasn't even over this. I think it was over something else. And then we realized after the fact that we had this like insanely mutual love for the Poltergeist, at least, well, just the Poltergeist franchise, but like the first movie
yeah,
specifically. And which is really, really, I don't know a lot of people that put this in the same regard as I do. So that was really cool. But
yeah.
for those of you who don't know, Poltergeist is my first memory of life. It's the first horror movie that I ever watched. It was the first and this came out before I was old enough to watch it, but I watched it a little bit later when I had to have been at least 4, right, to remember it as clearly as I do. And my siblings snuck to let me watch it. And then, later in life, I ended up cultivating a really close relationship with my sister over horror movies. And it just kind of was my starting point, and like all things horror and things that really just turned into just kind of an obsession later in life. And so it's always been kind of like a staple in my influential horror. It always makes my top list for movies that I would recommend if people haven't seen them, because it is older. Sometimes people that get in horror later, they don't catch up on all the classics and stuff. They don't watch them until later. But this is one that is just very, very special to me. And it's my first memory of life, my favorite like horror movie. So
And you have me beat at how early you said 4, right?
I had to have been at least 4, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think I was like maybe 8, 9, 10 the latest, but I don't think 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, right? I mean, it's like what a great movie to like just kind of start your love for the genre, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and like it's kind of kid friendly to the like to a degree, right? Like as kid friendly as the 80s could be.
Yeah. Well, because it's PG, but
Yeah,
mostly because there wasn't PG-13 when this came out.
right.
So
They had it. Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
this was probably one of the reasons why they made PG-13 was this movie. This and I think Indiana Jones and Gremlins, I think, were like
Yeah. They're like,
the
oh, this
reason.
kind of pushes it a little.
Yeah, yeah. And not a lot of kids'
Yeah.
movies have like bloody face ripping.
Yeah. Definitely not any PG ones. Yeah.
Definitely not any
Definitely.
PG ones, no, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I have a pretty similar origin story then. It's so funny. I remember kind of like the first time watching it. I was at the dinner table eating mac and cheese. And like I guess we were just like flipping through like just the stations and it was on
Yeah.
TV and like that's how I
Yeah.
caught it. And I remember just being so in love with it. I went and I think I had to go to karate that night. So like I remember like telling my sensei, I was like, I just watched Poltergeist. It was awesome. And I just
Yeah.
would not shut up. I think this was like my first hyper fixation in life was this
Yeah.
movie. Like
Okay.
other than Power Rangers as a kid, I guess a little kid, but this was
Yeah.
like I talked to
Yeah.
teachers, I talked to classmates about it, I talked to like everyone, and they were like, "Oh God, here's Steve again talking about Poltergeist." I
That's
was just
great.
so, and I remember like I don't think I knew that there were sequels. I don't know how I found out that there were sequels. Maybe my mom told me or something. But I remember going to like Blockbuster and getting like the VHS tapes for the sequels, like,
Yeah.
doing like a binge.
Yeah, I didn't watch the sequels until much later in life. And by the time I got around to the third, I kind of already knew about what was going on with the way the studio did that filming after, Heather sadly passed away, and like all these things that kind of surrounded the film and kind of those things. And it made it kind of seem like it was like a taboo thing to like watch it and enjoy it
Yeah,
given the circumstances. So I really I didn't watch that one until even later. I actually don't really remember the first time I watched it. It wasn't terribly long ago. And then I revisited it because I was on another channel talking my first horror movie and I felt like I needed to revisit. And then I revisited it again, to kind of prepare for this because it's the one I've seen the least
yeah.
amount of times. And then obviously I put off the remake for a long time, and then I finally
Hmm.
watched it too. So
I
yeah.
know that I saw in theaters. That one
Oh yeah.
I had
I
to.
didn't
I
see it
had
in
to
theater.
just because it had it in its name. But
Oh
yeah, no, had no idea about the controversy around 3. I knew she had died. I didn't know
yeah.
like if they were forceful about releasing it, like it was kind
Yeah.
of shady. Like I didn't know,
Hmm.
so I just kind of watched it without all of that backstory. So I think I had that. I was fortunate enough
Sure.
not to have like the filter on for that, just as far as enjoyment value. I
I
mean,
get that. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So why do you think you love Poltergeist as much as you do?
It's funny. I think it's like a divided answer because I think the younger version of me was attracted to it for very different reasons than I am now.
Mhm.
When I was young, first of all, I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing with my older, much cooler siblings, right? Which made me edgy, as edgy as a 4-year-old can be, right?
Right, right.
And I think the other thing is like jump scares get me all the time, fine. But as far as something that like genuinely scares me or genuinely makes me question reality or genuinely like freaks me out for an extended period of time, this was the first to do that and one of very few to do
Mhm.
that. And not because I don't get scared, but for things like movies to have like a lingering impact on you, is already like uncomfortable sometimes as an adult, but like being so young, and it scared me. I mean, I remember it being such an issue of how scared it made me that like my siblings were constantly getting reminded that they were in trouble for showing me this
Yeah.
film. Like it was just one of those things. And but I think the other thing, one of the things that made it, I think, so impactful when I was younger is because it was like that was like me. I mean, obviously, I didn't look anything like Carol Ann, but it was just one of those things where it was like this little girl who had a cool room with a bunch of toys and like
Mhm.
bad things started happening, and you've got this family that like can't help her. And when you're little, like your parents are supposed to be like the ones that like
Yeah.
rescue you and save you. And like that wasn't the case in this film. And that makes it like that. It just was like it was one of those things that just always stuck with me and it was really scary. And then if you fast forward, to later, especially now, because I'm like a parent. Well, I'm not like a parent, I am a parent. But it's like it's one of those things where I get emotional when I watch it now. Like the scene, I was just talking about this scene with somebody else, but the scene in the first one when the mom is like standing at the bottom of the stairs and she hears Carol Ann and she just like literally just like falls to shambles. Like she's like, that's
Mhm.
my baby. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no. Like it just like, it like brings on like all of these like emotions that I didn't know I could feel about a horror movie. First of all, that old that I'd seen that many times. Like,
Right,
so I
right.
just appreciate it on like the family dynamic, I think is one of the things that makes this franchise so strong. But I didn't appreciate that until I was older.
No, I think it plays on different, elements for
Yeah.
ourselves, right? Like you said, as kids, as an adult, quick shout out. If we're
Oh,
doing
hey,
that,
Blood and Bruce.
if that's happening, then our job is done.
Yes. Go revisit it and then tell us what you think on a revisit. I'm glad to see you around on YouTube. It's been a while.
Yeah. But I think you're so right. Like, I think that as a kid, you gravitate towards like, yeah, Carol Ann and Robbie, and you're like, that's me, and I hope my
Yeah.
parents come and protect me if something were to happen.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think I probably messaged you after I saw the 40th anniversary in theaters.
You did.
I was sobbing.
I
Like, I
can't.
think,
I'm so jealous. Yeah. Yeah.
like, as a new parent,
Oh my
like,
God.
I was
It
like,
hits
wow,
different.
yeah, and like just that helplessness of like, what would you do for your kids? And I think Steven Spielberg and
Yeah.
Tobe Hooper do like some great stuff where you get this like false sense of security, like
Mhm.
even after like the ghost stuff starts happening, right? Like they, kind of very similar to like Jaws and like E.T. and like very
Mhm.
Spielbergian, where it's like
Yeah.
don't mess with what you don't understand, like have respect for it. But
Mhm.
like it seems fun at first, right? With
Yeah.
like with Diane and the chair and the sliding back and forth, and it feels
Yeah.
fun. And I feel like most haunted house movies, it doesn't feel fun at the beginning like
Definitely
that.
doesn't start. Yeah, they don't start that way for sure.
So I think it's just such a fun way to like hook you in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, beyond the family dynamic, I mean, I think it's got some genuinely funny, heartwarming moments.
Oh my God. It
Um,
does.
But then, like, I just think the characters and the actors are so good. Just the team, right? Just beyond the family dynamic, like
Yeah.
Zelda Rubinstein is phenomenal as Tangina.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, I think
Iconic.
Beatrice Straight. I think for some reason, I always gravitated towards her character for some reason. I think she just had like such a grandma vibe to
Is
her.
that the doctor?
Dr. Lesh.
Okay, gotcha. I told
Yeah.
you I don't remember nobody's. The doctor lady? No.
Yeah, Dr. Lesh. I
Yeah.
just think like there was
She's
such a
meant to be that way, I think, though, right? Like,
yeah, but she was
yeah.
smart, like warm and smart, so you like trusted her.
Yeah.
And I love the conversations they have. Like they touch on a lot of stuff. I guess we're just
Mhm.
going into the first movie. I'm talking about like why I love it, but I guess we're just gonna go into it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the conversations around religion and spirituality in this movie
Yeah.
are really interesting, and I don't know if a lot of people really pick up on the way Spielberg is like, are you willing to question your own beliefs in order to save your family? Right. So he really puts a lot of stuff about like the white picket fence, the American ideal, like this like
Yeah.
hyper, like he talks like Reagan, the Reagan book is like something that the dad is reading. Like he talks about like kind of like this hyper American
Yeah.
patriotism
Yeah.
in the background of everything.
Yeah.
It's like, are you willing to question that to save
Yeah.
what's most important, right? Which is
Yeah.
your family, right? Your
Right.
children. Um,
Yeah.
I just yeah, I don't know. Did you pick I mean, did you pick up on that right away? Was that something for you? Like you kind of like dissected afterwards?
I mean, I think it's definitely something again that's not I didn't notice obviously when I
Well,
was
as a
so young.
four-year-old,
I
probably
mean,
not.
yeah, like getting a
Yeah.
like in my like when I was 4, I was like, no, I think like but I think one of the other things like all of that is really like when you think about especially the time frame that this came out is pretty interesting to break down it. And I hadn't like I like those types of themes in horror movies in general. These
Mhm.
questions, these especially if it this is and this doesn't push this as far, but like the concept of disbelief and things like that. So it's definitely something that I pick up on. But I was thinking, I think one of the other things that makes this film so strong is that this isn't like one of those movies you watch where the kids see something and the parents are like, hush and go to bed, right? The
Right.
parents, the mom experiences it like in the very beginning of the movie, and
Yeah.
it becomes a family thing where the children are not being like discredited or ignored or whatever
No.
because of their experiences. They're being listened to, they're being comforted, they're being
Yeah.
cared for. And then you fast forward to things like, for example, when Diane's like, we need to get the kids out of here. So she sends Robbie and
Uh,
Diane.
well, she sends Carol Ann and Robbie away like at the end, like after they get Carol Ann back,
Well,
right?
yeah, but when she
Oh
sends
no,
the
no, right. Robbie and Dana do leave. Sorry, you're right. Robbie and the
Is
dog
it
go to
Dana or
grandma's.
Diane? Hold on, I wrote it down. It's Dana. Okay,
Dana,
Dana
yeah,
and
yeah. Dana
Robbie.
goes to her
I told you
friends.
I don't remember there. Okay, so she sends them away.
Yeah.
What other movie do you know of that parents do that? Not one, because the
Hmm.
kids always end up stuck in these circumstances until things get so out of hand. And as soon as things started to get like a big deal, she was like, we got to get our kids out of here. I thought that's way more realistic. That's way more family. Like that seems more real
Yeah.
to me. And then what you were talking about with Dr. Lesh, it's like, you are betrayed by her. She's not someone that comes in, makes you feel super comfortable, makes you feel super safe, and then like that rug is pulled out, which is also a common thing in movies like this. And
Hmm.
I think that all of that is so unique to the subgenre that this falls under because that's not usually how any of those films go.
No, no, not never, especially not since.
No.
Well,
Mm. Oh,
well, man
hey,
made.
thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like there's so many things about it that feel like real conversations, real emotions, real like I don't know, like there's like aside from the paranormal stuff, like this family felt real, which to your
Yeah,
point is a testament to the acting because I mean, I buy it. I think it, and even now, if you watch it, you're going to buy it. Nobody is going to watch Poltergeist, even if they've never seen it, and think that this is a fake family. That's not a thing. Like they feel real.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even down to like the parenting, like the dynamics. Like I
Yeah.
love how quick Steven is to like get defensive. When Tangina asks him to like threaten to like hit her if she doesn't talk to him from the other
Yeah.
side, right? Like
Yeah.
just these like little like I would never, I would never, and this kind of like thing, this back and forth of like, um, just like are you willing to even look like a bad guy just to save your child, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like his like immediate defensiveness felt very real.
Yeah.
And like little moments too, like when Diane's like doing the laundry and she just wants to like take a peek into her kid's room, and then of course the beast like screams at her and then she has to close the door.
I know.
Like that
Yeah.
scene always got me too, because you
Oh,
can just like, feel like I miss my baby. Like I just kind of want to
yeah.
just check if they're there.
Yeah, and hope that maybe it's like all a bad dream.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think that stuff holds. I think like one of the things, and I won't jump too much into this because I know we're going to talk about the remake as a separate thing, but like that was one of the reasons I felt like the remake wasn't as strong. I don't think it captured those family things like as well.
Mm.
And they had, I mean, I don't know. I felt like they had everything they could have to make it work, and it just didn't for me. But this movie is like this movie is still really, like you said, it's heartwarming. There's some really funny moments in it.
Mhm.
There's these things that will make you cry. There's things that make you laugh. There's like, but then there's some pretty scary stuff in this, right?
Oh,
So most
absolutely.
people, I think, their fear of clowns originated with this film, right? And which wasn't mine, or which was mine, but a lot of people usually will say like it, but I think this one is probably more popular, right? The
Yeah.
original, while not my favorite, Toby Invaders from Mars is incredibly tight and well cast. It is. And I'll be honest with you, totally forget that Toby Hooper even had anything to do with this movie 95% of the time.
Yeah. I think
I
most people
automatically go Spielberg and I totally forget because this was after what was the one that he did, Salem's Lot? Was that right before this?
right before it, I think so.
Yeah. So like that's like that's like a completely different ballpark than yeah, the remake
Yeah.
was yeah, we'll get into it. The remake wasn't what I wanted it to be, that's for sure. But I think that like that's one of those things like it's because you just pointed out that it's so Spielberg. I think
Yeah.
that's immediately what I
Well,
go
he
to.
wrote it, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
that
he wrote it, but he didn't direct it.
no, he like wrote and produced it, which is like
Produced.
he's got a lot of weight on this movie. And he was
Yeah.
like, and there's pictures of him on set. So he kind of was like
Yeah.
co-directing at times. Like
Yeah.
I think he like there's a story of him like going into the pool with Joe Beth Williams when she was
Mhm.
filming the skeleton scene,
Mhm.
just because she was afraid that she was going to get electrocuted. So he was like, "All right, let's do this scene. I'm in the pool with you. We both get electrocuted."
Oh, right, because oh yeah, because of the yeah.
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 But yeah, but you're right. Genuinely like scary stuff that does stay with you. Like some great gross out moments. I mean, we talk about
Mhm.
like body horror. We've got the face. The moving steak is really gross. Like this, like
It's pretty cringy.
it's
Yeah.
really like, and it holds up. It's all because it's like all practical effects,
Of
right?
course.
So for
Yeah.
the most part, I mean, obviously we get some special effects,
Some
but
added stuff, sure.
yeah, but the practical really holds. And I
Yeah.
think like other scary I think just the idea, like you said, like you talked about like the hallway elongating. I think like it's a lot of like psychologically scary stuff.
Yeah.
Of the like you putting yourself in those situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way that yeah, I mean, the angles of the camera make a huge difference in this. I think in the hands of someone else, this could have been a very, very
Yeah.
different film, obviously. Um, but yeah, like you know what my so like you know when Tangina's talking about the beast and
Mhm.
she's building him up as this like ooh, like uber scary thing, but we haven't seen him yet when she's talking about him. It's just all in our heads. We're building this
Yeah.
picture. And then we get this like beautiful reveal, right? Where he like comes out and he's like all like wispy and like crazy and big and abstract looking and like
Hmm.
really wild. And the person that like bothering in the moment is the mom. She's like down in the middle of she's on the floor. She's like
Yeah.
like screaming and trying to hold on to things and like that scene is like so much. It's like all of those emotions, all that fear, all that worry about the kids, the family, like everything that you're feeling just all comes to this really big moment where like you've been preparing to meet this monster for a while at this point and you're still like not prepared to meet him. He's too
Right.
much.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and and it takes different forms. I because I always consider this the beast, but there's also the face in the closet, right, as
Yeah.
well, and I'm wondering, like, if that's just
Yeah. That's
all
true.
right, I'm trying to think as well, because like, that comes a little bit earlier, but I always associate that with being the beast, right?
Yeah.
But, um and then I guess you would
Mhm.
consider, I guess, like, the closet mouth tongue thing.
Is like connected to part of or something. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, like, what so favorite so obviously we touched on the clown, right, as kind of being a key scary
Mhm.
moment. Um, what else? I mean, the face ripping. Okay. So the the banging, like, so after Marty gets bit,
Oh.
um, yeah, and they hear like the banging, and then
Mhm.
it goes from a roar. Well, it starts as a whisper, right? Again,
Yeah.
but this is what they do so good with the false sense of security, right? It's like you get this whisper of mommy, and like she's crying, and she can
Beautifully
smell
soft,
her,
like yeah.
and then like immediately it turns, and they all get blown to the floor. Like that one always I think stayed with me as a kid.
Yeah. I think you're well, yeah, because it's almost this like because you get wrapped up in what you're feeling for the moment before that, where you're like that's what I was talking about, right? That's the when she's at like the stairs, the bottom of the stairs, and
Um,
she's mommy.
mom. So you're talking about so when they're like first like before Tangina comes, right? When they're first
Oh,
communicating,
yeah, 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 yeah. I got you.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're no, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that false sense of security is why those scares are so effective.
yeah,
And again, it's like it's so much of the bad happening to the adults too, and I think that's super important because it's not just bad things happening to kids that parents that don't believe them. It's like no, like the
right,
really scary stuff happened to the parents too, and it's just it's hard to like put yourself in the thing where you're like, okay, this can happen to adults too because they're supposed to be like the safe people, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like the effects, while good, aren't necessarily groundbreaking, but they punch harder because you're engrossed in the family dynamic due to the believability of the cast and the story pacing. Yeah, that's yeah, it's smart filmmaking because then you're so into it. Yeah, atmosphere and mood. Totally
Yeah,
agree. You're so into it that anything that is like not up to par, which I mean, I actually was very impressed with the special effects. I don't think I think they're fantastic. I think they've held up really,
yeah,
really well. Even the add-in of the beast and stuff later I think it all still looks really good for its time.
hmm
But I think that's true that in some sense it does make them more effective because you are so engrossed and it's almost like you're experiencing that and it's real life versus watching an effect on TV.
right. And it's like it's such a mix of different kinds of effects that they do, right? I
That's
mean,
true
you have
too.
the
Yeah.
VFX of like the Beast, right? But then you have like the practical stuff that they do with like the puppetry with the clown, and then
Oh my
the
God.
face
Yeah.
ripping and the stake moving, and
Yeah.
then you have a lot of more in-house stuff where it's like when Diane is being thrown around the room, that whole room is actually being rotated around.
Moved. Yep.
So there's that, which is freaking wild.
Yeah. And then they
Um,
later go on to use that in an NSYNC music video. I'm
and
sorry.
sync
Go ahead. All I could think of was that stupid music video, "Bye, bye,
that
bye,"
one.
where they're in the room and it's
The only other thing I could think of is when in Nightmare on Elm Street, when they flip for Johnny
oh,
Depp's death,
you're right.
the
Yeah.
blood geyser. That's
Where it's
another kind
upside
of flip
down.
room thing.
I know what you
But
mean.
this
Yeah,
one they
yeah,
got
yeah,
an actor flipping around, so
yeah.
a
A little different.
little different.
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to think what else I was just and then again the hallway scene, right? When that's also like a camera trick with the elongated.
Mm.
So they
Yeah,
a lot of like in-house stuff that I think is just more of like classic camera trick stuff,
yeah,
which is why it holds up, you know.
yeah, I agree. Um,
Um,
so for anybody who doesn't know, Steve and I have poltergeist tattoos.
oh yeah, if they haven't been able to spot it at this point.
Yours is completely different than mine, but that's yours.
Yes.
And then I don't know how to hold mine up on camera. That's not the right one.
That's not the right.
This one. He's upside down, but you get the
There he
idea
is.
at least. Yeah.
Now, so that's black and white right now, right?
Yeah.
So are you gonna get color, or are you gonna stick with the white?
No, I don't really like color. My
Yeah.
tattoo guy had to persuade me to put blood on my Wendigo.
Uh,
I am, but it's so funny because I think he looks so epically 80s, right? Like,
oh yeah.
doesn't he look so washed out? And then I'll meet people or see people and they'll be like, "Oh, is that like an older tattoo?" And I'm like, "You uncultured."
Uh,
No, he's supposed to look like that.
well, people who don't immediately recognize it from Poltergeist think it's like a Grateful Dead cover,
Oh,
but because or an Iron Maiden,
I
like
can
that.
see relating it to one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to
And you're
be the
just like,
first guess. Yeah.
hush.
Um, oh, no, we're not starting a fight with you
Oh, no,
about
no,
it.
no, no, no. I just think that, yeah, by this, we've seen a lot already. The effects are phenomenal. So they've
Yeah.
only seen it for another.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
technically
absolutely.
for me, this was my first experience with practical effects in a horror film. So
Well, that's it. Yeah, this was like kind of like the first, because like other than Poltergeist, I mean, really, it was like my kids' scary stuff, right? The Goosebumps,
which
the
is,
Are You
yeah.
Afraid of the Dark, which wasn't like this, right? It was not a Spielberg production. I did have
Mm,
a funny story though. Years later, when I'm in film school, we all had to we were in my screenplay, like a screenwriting class, and
okay.
we all had to bring in like an opening scene to show how like an opening scene sets the tone and all like the things you're
The
supposed to
film.
do in like a first scene. So of
Yeah.
course I bring in Poltergeist, as
Yeah.
our opening scene. So but anyway, I get into an argument with my professor. Well, not my professor, the guest professor who was kind of like helping out that day.
Okay.
Because he was adamant that in the first movie, you find out that it's built on an Indian burial ground, which it is actually not. It's I mean, which we know it was headstones that were
Headstones
moved, and
moved,
then we later find out that it was the Cain and his people under there.
which is a complete, yeah,
Yeah,
which is
so
adding to like the
had
story from the first
nothing
one.
to do with Indian burial grounds.
Yeah.
So like it's just funny that the trope automatically gets associated with that first movie when it
It's
actually
like, is it like the Mandela effect? It's like, yeah, like, where people are like, they think they hear something or see something, and then they think it over and over and over, so that it like becomes the reality, right? So then it's like, because
yeah,
you're right. That's always what people say about it.
and it's not. I wonder
Yeah.
because there's a Native American character in the sequel maybe, and it
Oh no.
and
Yeah,
people are
maybe.
kind of like doing that, but then again, most people haven't seen the sequel, or like most like non Poltergeist fans, right, have not seen the
Maybe
sequel.
it started as like misinterpretation, and then it's like word of mouth. It got worse.
Yeah, because I know that Family Guy did an episode where they parodied Poltergeist,
Yes. Yes.
but they made it an Indian burial ground thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So maybe that's actually where, yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's not quite where the story goes. That's true.
No. So,
Because
but
it
anyway,
even
it was
has
just a
a
funny
whole
argument.
conversation with the boss or the guy, whatever that guy's role is, where he's talking about like, you moved them,
Right, that's the
they
whole
have.
like pivotal point was
Is
like,
they have this whole conversation
right,
together, which is basically our info dump, right? Where we get like the rest of the information about
right,
why
they
all
left
this
the
crazy shit is
bodies.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, and he's like there, yeah, it's an entire conversation. It's like 5 to 7 minute part of the film where they
yeah.
discuss this in detail about what it is that's going on.
Oh, sorry, I have to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So this was our like COVID shutdown present to ourselves. Like we're big me and my husband were big X-Men people. Which does have a horror film in the franchise. It was not well reviewed or well received, but there is an X-Men horror film out there.
Really?
New Mutants.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, wasn't great. I mean, there were things in it that I could enjoy for what they are, but as a whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a tangent.
But yeah, I know what you're, but yeah, you're right that people do always associate that with this film and
Yeah,
think that that's the main storyline, and it's not.
but I'm trying to think any like main things like. And if you want to go into some favorite moments from it, or like, is there
Mhm.
anything else that you wanted to talk about before we get on to like the sequel?
We didn't talk about the really sad but beautiful like bathtub scene when the mom and when
Oh,
Diane and Carol Ann
yeah,
are like in the tub all together and like rinsing off and trying to get like after she, they pull her out of the thing and whatever. It's like that's the moment. That one and the one at the bottom of the stairs. Those are the two moments that like royally screw me up every single time I watch this film because like I don't know. Like I feel like obviously like we're not all saving our children from like closet monsters or whatever and other situations that we learn later in the story. But like that's not always everybody's reality. I won't say never because who knows, right? But like I think as a parent at some point in your life you're going to have something that comes up and you hold your child in that way and you're like please just be okay. And that was me last summer when Oliver had pneumonia, it was like really, really fucking scary. And
Yeah.
it was really upsetting. And it was really stressful. And I was completely alone. And I remember after we got home from the ER and me just like literally doing the same thing. And so when I rewatched it not that long ago, oh my God, devastation. Like I just could not so
Yeah.
I just think like that's another moment. Most of these moments are not ones that I remember that were not like big to me when I was younger, but they hit me different now, which we've already talked about. And then the moments that, we've already talked about when the beast reveals himself, that's a huge one. The face shredding, which is great. It's just great. And I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Like if to be manipulated into thinking that this, I don't know, like that's a lot.
Well, Marty did not come back.
No, he was done. Rightfully so. Angel would also be done.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that line when they're at the kitchen table. She's like,
m-
Marty's not coming back,
he's not coming back.
but I'm coming back. Don't worry.
Yeah. I think we talked about all the really big ones, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, never mind. That's the remake. Ooh.
well, I was gonna say like the scene at the beginning, or the kidnapping scene where they actually take her. I
Oh.
always get chills when she first hears her voice through the TV, and she like
Mm,
reaches her hand out. Like
yeah,
it's so beautifully shot, just the way the static is hitting Joe Beth's face, and then like the audio design, the mixing, like it's just so
that's
like.
great.
And then like but it starts with the son screaming at her to get her to listen, and like it's just so chaotic, and then you just have like this slow chill moment, and then the camera kind of, oh man,
It is good.
probably, it's hard. I want to say it's probably one of, if not my favorite moment of the movie, just because it's just,
Yeah.
I think it perfectly captures kind of that like that shock, that sadness, that confusion, that like it kind of almost puts it all into one little moment for you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can feel it coming and you can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I get being scared, but like Robbie is problematic for me in some of these. I'm like, dude, just help. Can you just help? Like, stop hiding and being scared. I need you to do something else. And we
Yeah.
didn't talk about the tree either.
Oh, the tree. Yep.
Hmm.
The tree's great.
The
Again,
tree is great.
another practical effect that just looks, as it's grabbing Robbie, eating him, like Steve's trying to get him out. I was
And then,
thinking of
and
like,
then, like, as a parent, right? Like, you come home and your son is like in this tree screaming bloody murder.
yeah.
It's raining and gross outside. You're like, what the hell is going on? Then you've got, oh man, it's literal chaos. That
Mhm.
whole couple segments in a
The
row where it's just
tornado.
like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, another interesting, I wish they did a little bit more with Dana. Like I like her as a character.
Sure.
She has like little like beautiful moments, like when
With
they
the
when they hear
construction
Carol
workers.
Ann's voice. Hmm?
With the construction workers.
Oh, the construction worker when she's
That's my
like, yeah.
favorite scene.
Well, she's tough, right? Like she,
She's a
like
badass. Yeah, I
she's a
like her.
badass. She clearly gets that from her mom, right? Like they're
Yes.
just like two badass women. Like they don't
Yeah.
take shit.
Mm-mm.
So you get these tough moments with her. Then you get these like really soft, sad moments, like where she's crying on the couch with like listening to her sister talk.
Yeah.
Um, like yeah, I don't know. Like it's unfortunate that we lost the actress kind of before the second one was made.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen a little bit more, especially, I mean, I guess maybe we could head into talking about the second one now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because one of the biggest swings for me with the second one is this idea of like introducing the gift, right?
Mhm.
Because we get the reveal that Carol Ann is actually sensitive,
Mhm.
and that's
She has the
why
shine.
she's a shot. She can shine, but she gets it from her mom, who can do it, and the
Yep.
grandma, who can do it. So
Yep.
then, presumably, maybe Dana could do it. So I would have
Yeah.
loved. Unfortunately, we never got to see more of that character, because I only could imagine like you get all the women together in this family, and then they're maybe in some way are able to help
Stronger.
each other.
Yeah.
But we get this reveal. Just that concept alone? How did you feel about Carol Ann and Diane being psychic?
I mean, I think it probably made sense. There had to be it makes sense from a story element simply because it needed to be like it when you do a sequel like this where we've already gotten like our story for related to the house specifically, and we're like, all right, so that's done, right?
Mhm.
That book has been closed. So they were going to have to add something to make it so that there was enough to even do a second
Yeah.
one. And I think that was obvious. That was probably the most obvious and best choice they could have made as far as pushing the story out, having more going on. Because then, of course, we meet Kane,
Mm-hmm.
who really wouldn't have a purpose in the story if it weren't for their abilities and why she would be considered special.
Right.
Right.
Because he's connecting to them somehow.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't
Yeah.
just follow them. Right.
No.
There is a
Yeah.
connection there, and so again, I think it does a really good job at continuing the family element, right? They're kind of like
Yeah.
they're homeless, sort of, right? Because their house gets eaten up into the other side.
Yep.
So they're staying with Diane's mom.
Yeah.
And I love the grandmother, right? I love a grandmother figure. I think she kind of does this. She kind of stands in for Dr. Lesh at this point
Less.
as like the
Yeah.
literal grandmother.
Yes. I
Um,
agree. Very
and
similar as far as like characterization, like
yeah,
very similar.
like smart woman, but also very like caring and kind, and you trust her, you feel comfortable around her.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab
Um,
this really quick. Hang on one second.
yeah.
Gotta get
Oh,
out of here. Get up early for real life. Thanks for the entertainment. Thanks.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Have
you
a
for
good
coming
night.
by.
See you next time. Bye. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, good. No, yeah. I make sure we
Yeah.
catch that one.
Yeah.
I got so excited talking about the
Oh, dude, go. I'm ready.
yeah, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I have a really good relationship with my grandma, my nana. So like I think just
Of
seeing that
course
play
it's
out,
a Nana.
my nana, my
Cute.
nanny, my nana. Um, so like I think just like seeing that was just kind of like emotional for me as a kid.
Yeah.
Especially when she passes. I'm like, oh my god, like don't do this to me.
Yeah. Because we have her just long enough to be invested in her as a character.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's like, all right, maybe not. Like it's
But you really get the sense of like, so they don't reveal that they're sensitive until way after the grandmother passes away, right? So it's like,
yes.
because when Tangina shows up and is like, here's these photos, what do you feel, right? And that's when we get the sense of like, oh, okay, yeah, so Diane can, you know, but then Carol Ann is also talking through the kid's phone, right? So
Yes, yeah.
so we know it's not they're not coming through electricity at this point, right? It's more
Yeah.
of like it's Carol Ann. Like they're getting to her just spiritually. Right, because
Yeah.
that phone's not connected to anything.
I mean, yeah, it's just a toy phone.
Yeah, it's just a toy phone, right? And then and funny enough, like it's comical that like the dad is like adamant, like anti-technology,
And it didn't matter.
and it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter because he's got they listen to the radio, they don't watch TV. I was the thing with the vacuum. I can't. It was this,
It was something, yeah, because he just was trying to protect his family, but he kind of went like overboard with it and just assumed everything was
like
unsafe.
everything was a conduit for the spiritual, like the spiritual side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which I guess anything can be, right? It was literally his daughter that was the conduit, not the house, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, then we got Kane, right? Who scary as hell. This man.
So
Oh
scary.
man, what was his name again? I have the
He
IMDb.
just like stares at her like when we first see him
Julian
and they're
Bell.
like out doing errands or whatever. I'm like, that's
Oh, and the
so
song. He's like, "Let me
unsettling.
sing with you. Let's sing
And you're
together."
just like, and he's got that old like Southern Baptist thing going
Ooh,
on in his
right? Oh my god! Like
so scary. I'm like, I knew people like that. uh-uh.
absolutely horrifying.
Yes,
And then
totally.
then he follows them back to the house, right? And he's like, "You're all gonna die," and like,
He
okay.
starts out like trying to pretend that he's friendly and he cares
Oh,
about
right.
their
He's like, "Let me
well-being.
come in," like
And the
preach the
dad's
good
like,
word.
nah, nah. Like, we're
Well, I mean,
good.
it kind of makes sense, right? When you think about Cain as like the figure that we later find out is like this doomsday preacher, right? Who like
Yeah.
convinces everyone the end of the world is coming and then they all die underneath Cuesta
All that.
Verde, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that he would try to lure them in with like false hope and false like which
It
is
fits
these
the MO.
preachers like MO, right? This is what they would do to like
Yeah.
these like cult leaders, right? Which I would
Yeah.
make you feel like you can trust them.
And then yeah, well, yeah, and it's interesting because when you look at it that way, right? You're also comparing it to the people who do fall for it because they know who to go for, and then it did not work with this family. And so
Mm-mm.
because this family's already been through hell and they're just different people, they're strong, they're different minded, they look at things differently. And so it just didn't work. And that's when he's like, all right, fine. And then he has like a hissy fit about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he says all the mean stuff.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we get, so I forget like how much happens before Taylor comes in.
I don't think it's that much more, right? We get
Right.
Kane. We get a
Kane,
couple more
and then does
family
Robbie
moments.
get, the scene that I love is the braces.
Ugh.
Does that happen
He's
yet
like
before
he's like
Taylor comes?
in the mirror. Oh, I think that's before Taylor.
Right, because like Robbie's in like the
He's like,
bathroom,
oh God. He's like looking at them.
is break,
Ooh,
and then all the wires come to life and they like
wild.
rip. Oh
So
man.
good though. So good.
So yeah, I mean, talk about like the practical effects, right? Like that
Yeah. Next
is
level.
like that's the thing is they really up the practical effects going from two, and then when we finally talk about three, I love the practical effects in three.
Yeah.
But this one, right, with the braces, and then we get and then we get the tequila worm,
Yep.
or the beer worm. I don't know. There's like the worm in the. Is it a beer or tequila that he's drinking? Because the only thing I can think of is like a tequila worm, which I'm assuming is what but for
I
some reason I'm
think
picturing
that's
a
right
beer.
because doesn't he pour it into something else? Or no, he drinks it from the bottle.
Oh my god. Hold
I don't
on.
remember.
I'm gonna look it up. But anyway, but like again, great practical effects there too. But that braces scene, right? And then I think the braces they're trying to like electrocute him. So
Yeah,
like
they're trying to go into the outlets and the
yeah.
yeah.
So like much more violent towards the family in this movie.
And specifically too, like violence towards children.
Yeah.
Way more aggressive this go round for sure.
Uh-huh. I'm pulling up pictures of the worm, but I think
No worries.
it looks
Yeah,
like
and
it,
I think a lot of people when they talk about two, they always bring up Kane and they always bring up the braces. Like that's the two things
yeah.
that are
But the
just like
tequila worm, I mean, that scene where well, I mean, possesses Steven. So we're getting possession in this movie too, which is a little different.
and oh, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, and the way he talks, well, he kind of like gets on top of
It's like
Diane.
assault. It's like so uncomfortable from like
Yeah.
someone you're supposed to care about.
And
Like,
then
ugh.
yeah, so that's the thing. It gets more violent towards the family. And I think it just shows like the rage and anger from Kane. Like we get it a little bit in the first one, right? Clearly like strong enough to punch a hole into this world. Like
But
he's
then
angry.
this is like next. This escalates.
This is like revenge. Like this family like ruined my plans and now I'm after them.
They gotta pay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was thinking, so like, yeah, so he's like physically abusing Diane. And
Yeah.
then he's like saying all this stuff about like not wanting Carol Ann, wishing she was never born. Carol Ann's right outside hearing it. Like really heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Well, and I was gonna say, and I'm sure this probably plays into the overall, like leading into that, and just the overall kind of everything that happens with him in general, his journey in the sequel. But like the other thing is, I felt like Steve wasn't the same type of dad, like the loving, kind dad that he was in the first one. He's different. Like this event like changed him, and he's just different in general. Even
mhm.
before that, like
Yeah. Well, he's drinking, clearly
he's
drinking
drinking
more.
more. He's just not as like actually present in the
Yeah.
family like he was before. I mean, we got glimpses in the first one of him and Diane's relationship and how fun and loving and like how they were as
Mhm.
just a couple, not even just parents, and then how he was as a parent. And then you get to two, and it's like it's very different. And I'm sure, I mean, it's obviously intentional. They wrote in that way on purpose, but it leads into I think what I interpreted as a susceptibility of being taken over and turned into that aggression because that's how he feels about what happened.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that
Yeah.
trauma and that
Yeah.
powerlessness of, like, not being able to
Mhm.
do anything, like, he needed all that help to get his daughter back, he couldn't just
Yeah.
do it on his own.
Mhm.
Sure, he felt, some type of way about that, and then
Yeah.
like, and the family certainly feels split, right? Because then Diane's trying to figure out, like, this whole abilities thing, she just lost her mom, um, it's like a whole lot of, like, everyone's kinda dealing with their stuff, right?
Mhm.
Um, we agree.
Totally agree. Hey, what's up, Porfy? JR, I presume? Maybe Rick usually comes in on his own, so I'm gonna assume it's JR. What's up? Thanks for coming by. Reverend Kane is awesome and scary. You forgot another word.
Yeah,
Scary.
horrifying, traumatizing.
Horrifying. He's so scary.
What was I saying though? But yeah, so like, we're all kind of like dealing with their stuff, right? So by the
Yeah.
time that like Tangina and Taylor come. So Taylor puts him through this whole journey, right? Which is, I think,
Yeah.
like you're saying, like, so like Steve is not the same person. Like he's traumatized. He's drinking, all of that. So like Taylor kind of puts
Yeah.
him through like a spiritual, like self, like journey, right? They go into like the hut. They do like the campfire, soul search. I forget.
Mhm.
Is it like a spirit walk kind of thing?
Yeah. Were they around the fire?
Or they're a
Let's
fire.
try
They
to.
got to breathe in the smoke, and
Yep. Yeah.
where they kind of.
It's all meant to, yeah, to connect him again, right? To like bring him into
Mhm.
like a different place, or not a different place like physically, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like strengthen his spirit, because I think the whole idea is like Taylor's getting him ready for like a final
the
confrontation,
battle.
the battle, right? So then the whole
Yeah.
family, so Tangina and Taylor take them all back to Quest Severity, where they go underneath the ruins of the house,
Yeah.
right? To like go into the other side to kind of confront them. And we get like really interesting, like, oh, I totally stole the picture. I totally missed it. Oh man, I wish I could have ported it over. But of like, you see the spirits, right? You can see like kind of demonic entities on the other
What they look
side.
like. Yeah. Hmm.
What he kind of like the beast spiritually looks like on that side.
Yeah.
But I love how did you feel about this part of it, right? Where like the four of them going down together.
Um, I don't know if I have any special feelings on it.
Mhm.
I guess that's supposed to be what, like our moment of like togetherness again, or kind of like a
Mhm.
weird not kumbaya moment, but I think you know what I mean. Yeah, I mean, I like this concept that there has to be effort made, because one of the things that I am like weird about is I prefer when we have, films that are like this, where there's like supernatural stuff going on, demonic stuff going on. Like we're not coming out of that on top. Like that's not a thing. We're
Mhm.
humans. We're not, like that's not a thing. So and then in a lot of times they will make people just like win for no reason. So I like that there was, I guess, like a buildup of events that shift over time to get like more of the story, like to get more of the family closer together, to like prepare them for all these things, and then like their actual facing of like what this is. I think that journey is necessary and kind of representing of like what it is to heal from trauma, what it is
Yeah.
to go through something horrific, and then not only have to piece yourself back together, but piece your family back together too. And I think that the journey from like what you're talking about, from we're us seeing like this side of Steve being like completely kind of removed and angry and drinking and doing all these things, and then that journey as it transitions into what this family is able to put back together as a team, as a
Yeah.
family. I mean, it's necessary, I think, for the whole plot of the film, obviously, but I think it fits. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I mean, I think I love like what it's doing. It's about the family coming back together and kind of like
Yeah,
reforming their unit. I think as a finale, it's not as strong as the original finale. Like,
it's
because
not.
it lacks the excitement, which I get. Like, that's kind of like a typical Hollywood thing. I guess you don't always really need to have a final act that's like boom, 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 boom. It's more subtle. It's kind of like this, like we're coming in, and it's like it's kind of like a one battle thing, and we're good, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, and I will say this, of all the endings, I think, including the remake, I do think this is probably the weakest, but mostly because I wish that there had been like, I don't know, like more when we get to the part where we see like where they're in and we see all the stuff, and we're like getting the bigger picture of like Kane and like all he did, and Tangina's doing her bit and all this stuff's going on. It felt like kind of like what you said. It was a little underwhelming. I think it happened. We had a lot of buildup of this big moment of, all right, let's
Mhm.
do this. And then it's like, okay, we're done. And it was very anticlimactic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree. I think it's probably the weakest of the endings, even though it's not, I don't think it's a weak film. I still really
Mhm.
love it. I think it's a great sequel in general. Like, I don't know if we've said that yet, but I think
Yeah.
that given the way the formula used for the first film and how it ended, I think they did a really great job on the sequel.
Well, they
Um,
focus on character, right? And
they
I think
do,
that's
which
what's
was a
really
strength in
important.
the original, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that they did it that way. But yeah, I think the ending was, it built up itself like it was going to be something really like monumental. Like
Yeah.
you're going to walk away from this and be like, wow, did you see the ending of Exorcist to the other side? And then that's not That's not what happened.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
But again, I think still like satisfying, right? Do you get that like, whoa, that was exhilarating and exciting? No. But you get like I love being with these characters more. I love like that
Mhm.
they kind of resolved their stuff as a family unit.
Mhm.
Um, sort of, right? Because we talked about Poltergeist 3 and like question some of the I love the okay. So I guess we'll go into that in like a second. But like yeah, I
Yeah.
think overall I really enjoy Poltergeist 2. It's a great sequel.
Yeah.
So shall we
I agree. No,
rate it?
I really liked two. I think two is a really solid sequel. I think it was able to take the stuff from the first one and really stretch it out into something more without making it feel too forced, which I think is
Mhm.
what happens a lot in sequels,
Oh yeah.
especially to supernatural movies. Like they just go into like just craziness after like the first movie just to make, another one. But I don't feel that way about this one. I think it was
Mm-mm.
but yeah, I think they did a really good job with it. And I think it's smart to kind of remove the sister, right? Because what do they say? She's gone away to school or something.
Well, at this point, what? It's a couple of years later, right?
Yeah.
So
But she
she
was
would
in
be
high
in college.
school. Yeah, she's in college. So it's just kind of an understood like, oh, but to get all the same people again was
To get the core, the parents, and then at least Carol Ann, right? I mean,
Mhm.
is good.
And Tangina, of
And
course.
Tangina, right? So Robbie, the kids, yeah, the two kids, the parents, and Tangina. That's a lot of people to get back.
That's a lot, especially again for the type of film that this was. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was, and because we spent so much time connecting with them in the first film, there's no way we would have been able to connect to new characters. Or I mean, new faces, new actors and actresses.
Hmm.
That would have been so hard to do
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For like a direct sequel, for sure.
for a sequel. Yeah. Now,
Um.
if it had been another family where something else was happening for completely unrelated, that's different. But
Yeah. Yeah.
to
They
for
did
it to
almost more of an
be
anthology.
yeah, for it to be this family,
Hmm. But anything else
yeah.
before we cross the mirror to talk about Poltergeist 3?
Mm-mm. I
Okay.
gotta
So
ask you this. Did I tell you about these Hi-O drinks that Addie got? Did we talk about these?
Hayo?
They're like, isn't that how you say it? Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
No.
So they're those like earthy things that's like not alcohol, but makes you feel like it's alcohol.
Oh, maybe you did. And
I
like
feel like we talked about, well, anyway, I didn't like the first one.
I'm
It
writing
was
it
like
down.
watermelon lime, and it just wasn't my jam. And they're very much seltzery in taste, so it's not super wine. But anyway, I'm saying
Right.
all that to say I brought a bowl of ice to keep it super cold because once they're not cold anymore, they're not good. But this is the peach mango one. It's called a functional seltzer.
A functional sauce.
Feel the float. We crafted our mindful social tonics with organic adaptogens, natural nootropics, and functional botanicals to celebrate life never wasted. Right?
Oh,
I
interesting.
bring it up because I have like this much left. I feel a little like floaty.
That's very funny. What
And
is
I
it? If it's not alcohol, it's not like
know it's
CBD. What
earth
is it packed
stuff,
with?
mushrooms. I don't know. It's got I don't know, or mayo, mango. I'm trying to find peach juice, orange juice, extract, ashwagandha,
Oh, Ashok. Wait, what?
cordyceps
Hold on.
mushroom extract, and some other shit. Oh, organic lion's mane mushroom extract. Anyway, the point is,
The
I thought it was
ashwagandha
like,
plant
yeah,
sounds
sure, right.
familiar.
But I've drank almost all of it, and I'm definitely kind of floaty. Not like
Strawberry.
what? Who?
Who?
What are you talking about, Rick? Hi, Rick.
Hello. Please explain.
Cream Champagne was her name. I have no idea. How many drinks have you had tonight, Rick?
I was gonna say, as long as there's not a tequila worm in that drink,
A lot of things, yeah.
there's a lot of stuff in that drink. So the
But
ashwagandha plant, right? It's
but
an
it
Asian
doesn't have
ashwagandha.
anything else in it. It's got a little bit of sugar. That's it. 30 calories.
That's good. So it
Anyway,
sounds like
so
it's like getting a natural high.
it's gluten free and it's vegan. There's no GMOs. which, I don't care about that, but I'm sure people do. Anyway, I just had to bring it up because I'm sitting here looking at my screen. I'm looking at you and I'm like, good, like
Good floating.
relax, like before you're gonna feel bad the next day. You know what I mean? Like the
Mm.
happy medium of like, okay, I'm good. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I get that. I get
I
that.
assume
Like
that's Albert. You know what I mean, Albert? You drink beer and stuff. You gotta know what I mean.
I was gonna say
Good.
it's
I
like
would
a
say
drink we're
good
gonna have
floating.
to tackle. But okay.
Shit, I moved too much. Okay, there it is.
I can go float. We all float here. Right?
Oh, this would have been a great opportunity for me to use my Stereo mystery box drink things I hadn't used yet.
Oh, for a float. Let's go for a float. Oh, like an ice cream float? Are we talking about that, or are we talking about like go for a float?
Like, are you threatening us right now? JR? I know where you live.
Because an ice cream
Okay.
float does sound good. I haven't had an ice cream float in I don't know how many years.
God, me either.
Right? Like a root beer float or something, or like if I
We
don't have
just
root beer, I
missed
like
the weather for that. It's finally cooling off.
yeah,
Now
but I
it's
feel like yeah, a
now
nice
it's
good root beer
soup
float.
season
Mhm.
and hot chocolate season and
Mm.
whatever else.
I had really good hot chocolate last year. They had a pop up. It was like a Harry Potter like Forbidden Forest walk through the woods thing.
Cool. Yeah.
We went, it was like kind of like lightly snowing, which was perfect. And they had like flavored like hot chocolates. And it was so good.
Yeah.
I had like it was like a praline, nutty kind of
Oh my
blend of
God. Like that super extra hot chocolate from the Simpsons movie,
yeah.
the Ned Flanders, where he's like, does all this shit and
Mhm.
puts it on the windowsill.
Oh man. But oh man, yeah, hot chocolate something. Maybe I'll have to make that before bed. Let's see if I have it. We probably only have like Swiss Miss in the cabinet.
Don't hate on the Swiss Miss. That's pretty
No,
good.
she'll have to do. Totally off topic. I don't know, but Poltergeist 3.
Great. Okay.
I so yeah, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream. So I didn't go in with all that like knowledge of like
Why
Heather
it
Rock
was
passing
kind of,
away, like them kind of
yeah.
releasing it during
Yeah.
that time, and so I
Hmm.
kind of like went in with like without that. There's a lot of stuff I love about this movie, and I think my appreciation for it grows after every time I watch it. The only like real issues I feel like I have with it are the idea that like Steve and Diane would send her away. Like I think that's the hardest thing. Like if we're only seeing the decision, right? We're not seeing the reason.
Anything that led up to it, or yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
like I feel like I wish we had a little more of an inkling of like why Steve and Diane would make that choice, because it almost just feels so like
They
you were
they don't dive into it. Not
they
really.
don't talk about it at all.
Like at all.
Um
Plot hole. That's why, because
it's
there's
a
no
plot hole,
reason.
right?
It
Like
doesn't
or
fit.
it's just like a like where's no even though Diane and Steve aren't in the movie, like I still would like to know that character decision. Like what's the motivation there? But outside of that, this idea of Carol Ann trying to like have a somewhat normal preteen life,
Yeah.
but like this like weight of like no one believing her that her house was haunted or that she was followed by this entity. It's really
Yeah.
sad.
Mhm.
You
It is.
know, and you kind of wish Steve and Diane were there for her at this time. Except she's living with his aunt and uncle that she barely knows. And her cousin who's like, she's nice enough, but
But definitely a teenager.
definitely a teenager, kind of doing her own thing. She's got her
Mhm.
boyfriend,
Or
living
hopeful
her life.
boyfriend.
Hmm?
Hopeful boyfriend, right? Are they
Hopeful boy.
actually?
Were they together? I don't.
I thought it was like a crush kind of.
Maybe I'm forgetting. You
I
just
think
you
that's
just
all.
re-
I
I
think
didn't
that's
rewatch
all
it.
it is for most of the time that you're a teenager anyway. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
hoping it's going to turn into something and being too scared to make it.
yeah. Pretty teen-ish stuff. But
Yeah.
I love. I mean, we get Carol Ann and we get Tangina. So those are our two returning characters for this movie, which I think is, if you're going to bring back anyone, I think Tangina was like, we can't get anyone
You
else.
couldn't change that.
No,
Yeah.
I think she, you needed somebody there to help Carol Ann who understood Carol Ann. If you had this
And
whole
everything that had come before.
and everything that had come before.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, right. Because if you imagine this movie without anyone else returning besides Carol Ann, it would be so weird. Um,
Yeah. It wouldn't fit. And then even recasting Kane was like fine.
Recasting Kane was weird, but I mean, he did fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it wasn't so off that it was like thankfully he wasn't on screen like a lot.
Well,
But
that's the thing is like, well, that's the ultimate like reason why I think I enjoy this movie a lot. The more I watch it, is like, yeah, they really play on the reflections and like the idea of mirrors being the conduit this time
yeah.
around,
Yeah.
really beautifully. Like the idea of like something else is happening in the background in the mirror, like the statues, the artwork moving, or like Kane coming through every door in the hallway, like some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But then it gets even further, right? Like going to the practical effects, like Carol Ann getting pulled in through the puddle,
Mhm.
right? Or Donna coming up through the pool.
Yeah.
And like really like all this reflective stuff. I'm trying to think what else. There was the pool, the puddle, um, the doors, like the mirrors
The
themselves.
mirrors, yeah.
But then there was like totally blanking. There was like something else that I'm thinking of, but
That's most of it though.
it's most of it, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Hi, Lexi.
Lexi.
Thanks for coming in and saying hi. Lexi was one of our winners for the episode choosing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
She did. She's
congratulations
the
if
one
I
that
didn't
picked.
say
Oh,
it.
I won't say what it is yet, but she picked a movie to review that. Yeah. So anyway,
Oh, that's exciting.
and she was like, "And I can be a guest," and I was like, "Of course."
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, but even like the doppelganger stuff, right? This idea of being a reflection is so wild. Like that
Mirror stuff in general, honestly, it's so creepy.
the doppelganger stuff in general.
Well, just no mirror stuff in
Oh,
general.
mirror
Like
stuff. Yeah.
there's so many movies and things, right, that play with that, the mirror
Hmm.
thing. Where it's like you walk away and your reflection didn't, which is they do that in this, but there's other films that do that too. When she's getting ready, when I think it's Pat is standing in front of the mirror
Hmm.
and Bruce walks away from her, something like that. They one
Oh,
of
but
them
Bruce
walks
is still
away
standing there, right? The
and still
reflection.
standing there, and she
Yeah.
notices it, but then it's over, and she's like,
Like what the hell? Yeah. Or even the scene like when Carol Ann's in the principal's office or the psychologist's office, and the hand
"Oh,
throws the cup, and he
mm-mm."
sees it, but he's such an ass. He's like, "You didn't
I
even think I saw that."
I hate his character, and I know we're supposed to,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
damn,
Talk about well, I mean, this goes to your point about the first movie where it's like the adults believe the kids.
yeah. And
This
then
is
this
that
is
case
like
of like
this
clearly
pulled
not.
me, yeah. Oh, he's like he literally is convinced that this like how old is she by this point? 10,
I thought she was
11?
like 12, like
Was
11
she
or 12.
12? Good lord. Okay, so she's much older. So she's like she's a big kid, right?
Yeah.
He's people like he's trying to convince all these people that this child has convinced all of these adults of a reality that doesn't exist. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you're an idiot. Like
It's like massive
nothing that you're
mustache.
saying makes any sense at all. Like 0 sense.
Yeah, like he's like this 12-year-old is capable of like mass hysteria and like mass
Oh my
hypnosis.
god, this shit. And it's like, well, I don't know what kind of brain or like fragile mind you have, but that's like not a thing. And for it to be, I mean, he literally says this to everyone he comes in contact with, including Tangina. Oh man, when she walks in and meets him, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it's about to go down. She's not gonna put up with none of his bullshit at all. I love the scene when she meets him for the first time. I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, so good.
I got so excited when she first shows up because I think she's at tea with her friends, right? I think the first time we
Yes.
see her, and like
Yes.
she's like overpouring, and she's like, oh, "He's found her," and like that moment, I'm like,
And it's
"Yes."
yeah.
It's like the Avengers when they get together. You're like, ah.
I love that.
But
Yeah,
she's
no,
so
that part is super great. But I'm telling you, like, even like on my third, probably my third, because I've only seen that one a couple of times.
Mhm.
My most recent watch, like when she walks in and meets him, I can feel it. I'm like, whoo, she's like ready to light his ass up. But she
Right.
maintains her composure
Yeah.
a bit, and she handles it very well, better than I would have, because I would have knocked his teeth out. But
Mhm.
it's just like it was just such an interesting, parallel. Like she's like
Yeah.
this adult in this world that knows all of these things, that believes Carol Ann, that knows these things are real. And then this other adult that was meant to be helpful to her and is
Yeah.
not, in fact, and is like polar opposite. And they're just like, I love that.
He
That
really
dynamic was
is
really good.
the antithesis of like Tangina, but also like kind of the antithesis of like Dr. Lash, right? Because they're both psychologists,
Yeah.
right? And she, I always go back to
Good
Dr.
point.
Lash just
Yeah.
because she's my
Yeah.
fave. But
Good point.
again, it's just interesting because he does play the psychologist role in the movie, but kind of like the
Yeah.
total opposite of like completely like, I mean, hey, like I'm a therapist. I get it. If someone tells me that they hear things or see things, my first instinct is like to assess for hallucinations and stuff, right?
Sure.
But like there's an element of like, you have to listen to people and their experience and like you have to be a little open-minded, right? Um, and he just goes that complete opposite way of like the no, I know everything, like in total mansplainer, right? Like,
Oh my God. And to your point, like even when he sees his own things, he like
yeah,
rationalized them to the extent that he's like, oh, this shit ain't real. It's just her making me believe too. And I'm like, you are so dumb. So dumb. I hate God, I hate his character so much. Like, talk about a punchable face.
well,
Like,
he gets his,
he does.
and it's called an elevator.
He does. You're right.
He gets thrown
I
down
felt
that elevator
I
shaft.
felt very good about that.
That was a death I was okay
I'm
with.
like, oh no.
But yeah, but because
Yes.
Donna's doppelganger's the one that throws him, right?
Yes.
Or the boyfriend's one of them. Yeah.
I think it's her. I think it's Donna's.
Yeah.
Either
But
way, though, yes.
interesting twist. Like obviously we never got another one after this, but like where it takes us is this idea of like Tangina sacrifices herself to be the one to usher Kane to the other side. Like let me like end this like this
Yeah.
mouse,
Stop
cat and mouse
bothering this
game.
little girl and her family and let's just do this thing. Yeah.
Right. Which I think was a beautiful way to end it.
Yeah, it's fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Love the scene if we're just about Tangina. Love the scene where she's in the freezer, right? With
Yeah.
the water's behind her, and like,
Yeah.
oh man, like again, the practical effects are just so
So good.
good.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things that I do think that this one does maintain that the others do probably not as well. The second one probably not as well as the first, but is again this concept of like family and unity because
Mhm.
like you get that whole scene towards the end when Pat and Bruce go down into on the what's it called, the scaffold,
This out on like the
when they're going,
scaffold or like
I guess that's what it's called,
the
right? So
window cleaning thing.
they're going down to get Donna and Carol Ann.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so Bruce goes into the mist, and we get this Carol Ann that's saying all these things, that's like really, and she's saying to Pat, she's like,
Right.
I'm not your family, like you're not, you can just go have Bruce by yourself, and like promising her what she thinks that she wants. And she just tells her, she says, but you are my family. You and Donna are like my own kids. I love you. I love you. Like, and I thought that was like a really beautiful scene. Like I come from like a super mixed up family. Like, I think that like this concept of loving someone as your own, even when they're not, is something that I super relate to.
Yeah.
And I just thought was like such a really cool way to kind of bring us back full circle to this original family dynamic of this family that was super close and loved each other and wanted to help each other. And they would they would stop at nothing to save each other. And we kind of get that again at the end with a character that's meant to be like the younger step parent, right? Like because Bruce is very successful. They're very successful. They have money. She's the step parent. She's whatever. But there's this really, really great unity moment there where she goes in, she's got the necklace or whatever.
The amulet. Yeah.
The amulet. And so she's getting ready to go in, and she, Tangina, ends up telling, well, I'll do it myself or whatever. And then you get this really cool, like mist covered shot of Bruce carrying Carol Ann with Donna on his arm, and this family is like reunited. And I think that I really love that scene. Like there's so much power in it for me personally. It resonates with me with this concept that like, you can't tell me that like, you can't decide for me that I don't love this family or these people. So don't even bother trying. And I thought that was just really well done.
Yeah, it's the closest. I mean, like It's the closest we were going to get to that family dynamic, right? Of like
Yeah.
without having the feelings actually in it, right?
Yeah.
This I love the way that they went about that for sure. Um, I just realized the girl that plays. Oh, sorry, I told you like because I had Poltergeist free the
Yeah.
IMDb open. The girl that
Yeah.
plays the sister is in Twin Peaks.
Oh.
You see Twin Peaks?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen Twin Peaks.
Oh, it's a great show, a cult classic kind of show.
I know, and it's been on the list forever, like it is, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, so Donna plays Donna. So she's Donna in Poltergeist and she's Donna in Twin
Oh,
Peaks.
that's funny. Yeah. I liked that
Yeah,
part. Did you like this ending?
I do. So I mean, it's a little cliffhangery, right? Like
It
in
is a
this,
little bit.
so like there's a couple. So not just the lightning striking. Like I'm wondering if that's almost more of like an artistic kind of like creepy ending, just because
But
like
the laugh, right?
the laugh. I'm like, huh, all right. Like what were you suggesting, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
and they when Heather O'Rourke died, this film was not finished. It wasn't
right.
ready to go out. It wasn't finished. And the director of the third one is the same person. It's not the same person.
You know, the director of the third one,
The
Gary Sharman.
second. Who did the second one? Did he do the second and the third, or just the third?
No, Brian Gibson is the director of the second one, and then the
Okay, so
director of the third is
I think it's the
Gary.
director from the third one had created such a close relationship with her that he didn't want to finish it. He wanted to just be done with the project. Like, it was really upsetting to him, and the studio was like, "Yeah,
Mm,
sucks to suck. You have to."
mm,
And I think that sucks because it's hard not to think about that. I mean, you can still, I think, enjoy the movie as it is. I don't think you have to be like, "Oh, I hate that movie because of this." But it is hard to know that that's like that studios do things like that, because
mm,
it's hard to be like, oh, like in memory of, when like they didn't care about that. They just wanted the
sure.
movie finished because they wanted to make money off the franchise. And anyway, so it was like, that's when we started seeing some of the scenes that have like the body double and the things and whatever.
Right.
So that was kind of sad. But I try to look at it as like this really positive thing, because there was a lot of love put into these films. Like, a lot of love went into making them. A
Sure.
lot of love went into creating these relationships, these bonds that we care so much about. And the story is, surface level is a haunting story, sometimes a possession story, but at its heart, it's a story about family and trauma and overcoming things together. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's still like, people still talk about how much they love these movies, because of all of the things that we get out of it when we watch them all. Minus the
Absolutely.
remake, but I guess we'll get there next.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of any like last thoughts with the third one. I mean, touched on kind of like all my favorite parts of it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, with the death, it's hard. I think what makes it kind of hard to really argue is like she's a kid, right? So I think when you're dealing with minors, it's a little hard to really have like objective kind of feeling about it, right? It's very like, and then, what I mean by that is like if I were an actor and like if I passed away, right? Like
Mhm.
I maybe as Steven would hope they would release it, right? In the sense of like, this is my work, share it with the world. We'll
Yeah.
never know what Heather would have wanted, right?
Sure.
That's the thing, right? Is like, it's you can't, because it's all about like then you're making decisions for her. She's a
Yeah.
minor. She just passed away. Parent family's grieving. Like
Mhm.
maybe she would have wanted. I mean, you don't know, right? Like because she was little, right? It's not like
Yeah.
I mean, she knew she was sick, but I don't know if her mind, if she was like
Well,
thinking
yeah,
this
because she
way,
was misdiagnosed.
right?
They told her she had Crohn's, and she ended up having like a backup or something in her small intestines or
It was
something like
yeah,
that.
I know it was digestive, whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, and the symptoms were similar to Crohn's.
Right,
And so I
right.
think I think that's what they told her that she had. And then what it was actually just a backup, something that could have been easily fixed. And the misdiagnosis ultimately led to her death when she
I
was
hope the
12
family
years
sued
old.
the hell out of them. That's for sure.
And they should have.
I hope they did. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm telling you, I think if you're a female or a child and you go in to get medical care, it's so easily dismissed as nothing. It
yeah.
happens all the time. I was treated for 8 months with stomach stuff, and all it was my gallbladder. And if I had not told my doctor what I was certain it was and had the surgery within a couple of weeks, it would have ruptured and I would have been in really bad shape because of it. Because
Oh
they
yeah.
didn't want to listen to me. And I feel like that's one of these things where it's like, oh, you're
Yeah.
a kid. It's probably just this.
And this
This
was now what happened to you, right? This was modern. Like this
yeah,
was
this was rough. This was a couple years ago.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
we're talking about like this is a 12-year-old girl in the 80s.
in the 80s. Yeah. So, and it's
Hmm.
yeah. So rightfully so, they should have sued the hell out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely would have if it'd been my baby that it cost
Oh, hell
me.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'd burn the damn hospital down and the doctor's office and probably the world.
Yeah, all full John Wick at
Yeah.
that point.
What's the point? I mean, at that point, yeah. So it's,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, but I do like the third one. I think it's really good. I think, I really liked the revisit of the family, and I really like that they took it into a newer mindset outside of, because we were talking about with the first one of them pushing kind of the mindset of like, oh, like questioning your beliefs and the things that like really not really well handled, back then, or now. And but you're talking about too also accepting family in a new sense of family being something that you feel versus
Yeah.
something that you're born into. And I think that that's at least for me personally, that's a really powerful feeling because it's true, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, especially, I mean, I think about like, my son's adopted, right? This
Yeah.
idea of like,
That's a good, yeah, true.
he wasn't born into this family, but he's still my
He's
son,
y'all's.
right?
Yeah.
So this idea of like found family and like this, like,
Yeah.
family can be whatever you make it,
No,
is beautiful.
absolutely.
And I think that message, like you say, it just kind of fits perfectly within the trilogy of like, because at the core of this movie is it's about family,
It's about family.
as
Yeah.
they say about the Fast and Furious movies. It's about family.
There's this meme that comes up for me all the time on Facebook. It's like like somebody posted something and then it's like a screenshot of the post and then a comment. And the post is like, "What are y'all mad about today?" And then the comment is like, "Not one time in any of the Fast and the Furious movies do they stop and get gas." And every time I see it, I laugh every time because I'm like,
That
"That's a
is a
valid thing to
good
be."
point. It's kind of like in an action movie where it's like the gun never runs out of bullets.
Oh my god, I know. Yeah.
These cars don't run out of
They
gas.
don't run out of gas.
Yeah,
They live in
no.
another dimension, the car dimension.
There's like a spell in the
Um,
tank, and it just keeps
oh my
filling up.
god. Just never goes out.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, no, exactly. I think it's and I like movies that have, some depth to them, and I think these
mhm.
do. They're kind of presented, as these just little ghost movies, but there's so much left. There's so much else there,
Yeah.
besides just that.
It's a kid. I mean, I put these. This is like also why I love at least the first two Conjuring movies the most, right? Because
Oh, the
I almost
family
put
stuff.
like I almost put Craig Nelson's performance up there with like Patrick Wilson. Like I feel like these two like father figures are so. These are like these are how you write fathers and like the male figures in these movies. Like these two are like the best kind of characters that you can
I
have.
agree.
Same thing we get with like Joe Beth Williams and then Vera Farmiga, right? I think
Mm.
they're so like incredible and like just these like two couple dynamics. I kind of put them side by side.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point. That's a good comparison. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
like
It's just
that.
again because it's been in The Conjuring also kind of about family, right? Like, in the way they,
Yeah, it's a lot more. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more than about possession.
oh yeah, right. Because it's really when you make the stories, when you really dig out and like carve out the characters
Mhm,
that these possessions and these hauntings are happening to,
mhm.
you get a much more nuanced kind of detailed story.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's crazy because well, so okay. So I didn't come into the sequel or the third or the third one until later.
Mhm.
But it's crazy because it's like as scary. I keep putting my elbow on my mouse and it's like wigging out. Okay. I was like, what is it? What's going on? Anyway, so like whenever because when I do think about these movies, I don't always like my first things like I have to really think about them to get to the scary stuff, but the family stuff is what I remember the most.
Yeah.
The things that like I always say, like if horror can make you feel something, then it's like doing more than it should, right? It's
Yeah.
doing like it's overachieving at that point because, jump scares, spooky, hallways, dark rooms, things, all of that kind of stuff. Clowns, all scary, uncomfortable. We get it. But if it can make you feel something else while that's happening, it's a testament to how well the film is made.
Yeah.
And I love that. And don't get me wrong, I don't actually even think that that's a few and far between thing. There's tons of horror movies that make me feel things, tons of them. But this one was the first. And this
Yeah.
one is like every time I watch it, any of them, mostly the first one. The first one I think is the most emotional, but the ending of the third one got me today. Like I was sitting at work, like watching the ending, and I was like, like it's so emotional when she's like, "You are my family. I love you." I was like, "That's right." Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I
Absolutely.
get pulled into those things like every single time, and I think it's just, it's one of the reasons I think it's so strong as a franchise and it's so great.
Hmm.
So it's such an easy film to love. The first one, and then obviously the other ones too, but you know what I mean. But I think it's just so easy to love because you feel everything that this family is feeling, whether you want to or not. And that
Hmm.
makes everything else 30 million times more effective.
Absolutely. Because it's one thing to scare you, it's another thing to make you like fear for the things that you love. Right. And like
Yeah,
question your own safety and like,
totally agree.
when you put yourself in those shoes, like that's just fear on a whole other level. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else before we move on to the remake. I mean, I don't think I shouted out like what my favorite kind of scare of this movie is like doppelganger Donna crawling out of her body.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's probably mine too, actually.
Oh, it's
I
so
was just
good.
thinking about that. Yeah. Or maybe like
I think it's just the
scare
coolest
scene.
look. It's like creepy. It's like good body horror. It's like,
That's good. I do like that
yeah.
one. That's a good one. Good shout. Yeah.
But also again, oh yeah, added to the cliffhanger too, right? So we get the lightning with the laugh, but then also Donna and her boyfriend or her friend are kind of like walking away, and you're like, I think it's still the doppelganger.
Oh, yeah.
They walk away, and
It leaves a lot of openness. Maybe there was the hope.
I think they were hoping for a fourth one, and like and as like, and I still kind of would love this, like if they ever decide to do. And there was a rumor that the Russo brothers were gonna do another one, like a remake, but I was hoping like I would love like a requel. Like the way they do it is like an adult Carol Ann could be interesting, but unfortunately, right? Do you do it without Heather? Like, is that weird?
Then I think you're gonna have the people like, well, and I was one of these people too, where you do Sally Hardesty, but it's like played by somebody else. You're like, what the fuck? Like, just leave her out of it. Like, don't even
Right.
put her in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Can't be the same person because it's such an
Yeah.
iconic character. It would have to be a different family. It would have to be a different connection. They would have to go a different route,
Yeah, because
in
I
my
always
opinion.
thought maybe a novel. Like I don't know, I always would love to like explore like what an adult Carol Ann would be like. Like you have this thing happen to you as a child,
Well, yeah. Does she embrace the gift? Does she hide it? Does she,
right?
go insidious and forget about it? Like, what happens?
Like I can see her almost being like somewhere between that, right? Like
Yeah.
between like the Insidious forget or like almost like a Doctor Sleep, right? Of like
Where it's dormant.
it gets
There's like that.
dormant, or then
Yeah,
eventually use your gift to help people. Like, does she then become a Tangina? I could totally see that being a thing.
that would have been, yeah.
And then maybe she wears Tangina's amulet as like a little like thank
Nod.
you kind of thing. I think
Mhm.
there's so much that you could do. Like again,
Mhm.
is it weird to do a movie without Heather playing it? But I would love to know more. Like maybe someone could write a book. But anyway, I wouldn't mind like another story in that world either. Right? Like I don't know. Like if
Yeah.
you like if Quest of Verity gets rebuilt or um I don't know. I don't know what else you could do outside of like a
No.
remake, which we've tried.
Yeah.
But let's get
Yeah.
into that. So the remake, right? So the remake is not the Freelings, right? It is what is their last name?
No idea.
The Bowens.
Mhm.
So we get the Bowens, and then so this film kind of comes off like at the end of like. So I'm getting the sense of like it's the end of the housing crisis. So they
Mm.
kind of end up moving into this like dilapidated community,
Mhm.
right? So rather than it kind of being this like bright up and coming
That's the
suburbia.
opposite. Yeah, they're, like, seriously struggling financially,
Right.
which I think was meant to add to the whole, like, "Why don't you leave?" thing. Well, because we can't, like, but, that's neither here nor there.
We're tied up into the house.
Yeah,
And like I think the characters, well, not really because doing a play by play, because the story pretty much is the same, save for like there's no beast. So they've eliminated the beast.
they have.
It is just a culmination of angry spirits,
Mhm.
which I feel like takes away some of the menacingness of it. I don't know. It feels weird.
Yeah, well, it feels less organized, which I think is less scary. I
It is,
think it's
yeah.
more scary if there's like an organized method and like a thing to be afraid of on top of the other things, or like, oh, you think this is bad, just wait. Like, I think, yeah, there's some nuanced things with that I think it loses for sure. I agree.
Yeah, like like so let's look at the family, right? So we have this family dynamic, and I think you have great actors, right? Like
Oh,
it should,
no problems with the people in it at all as far as acting or
right.
who
I
they
mean,
are.
Sam Rockwell is a great actor.
He's
Rosemary DeWitt
hilarious.
is she's
Yep.
playing the mom.
Yeah.
The kids are great. The
The kids
sidekick,
were fine.
Jared Harris, I love him. He's playing
Yeah.
Carradine. And then you have Jane Addams.
Mhm.
So like you have like good actors in this
And
movie.
what's the guy that plays the Tangina of our
So
film?
it's, so it's Jared Harris.
That's Jared Harris.
The British
Okay.
guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
although is he British in the movie? I think he is, right?
I don't know. I love him. He's in Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. He was in Mad Men. Was the first thing I saw him in.
He's great.
He is very,
He's
very
the voice actor of Captain So and So and Sea Beast on
uh,
Netflix.
okay. Yep.
Anyway, he's great. I love him. He's
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
no, he's phenomenal, and he is funny. Like, and he is good.
He's very charismatic. Like he's very
Yeah.
like you can't not like him. Like even when he's a bad guy, you're like, I still kind of like you. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
And he has a good dynamic with Dr. Brooke, right? Like
They used to be married.
they used to be married, right?
So
Yeah.
now there's like super weird and problematic. It's like I actually really love their dynamic. They're very cute.
Yeah. So you get these like sweet family moments, and some of the scares are good. Like I'm trying to think, Madison getting lured into the closet is good with the lights. And, instead of chairs, we get playing cards or books or something. It's playing. What was it? Playing cards,
Think so.
right? Um,
Yeah.
the TV, the hands in the TV, because a lot of this, they're putting this like modern twist to it that I'm like, it loses
Yep.
a little bit. I mean, yeah, use an HD TV, but like, do we have to see like 20 hands in the
No.
screen? It doesn't feel like.
We
I feel like what was great about the original is like what you don't see is scary,
Yeah,
right?
well, and also we saw those same things used in white noise, so it's like, yeah,
Right, right.
I don't know. Like it wasn't yeah, a lot of those hard-hitting moments that they attempted to recreate, huge fails. I actually did not really like the clown in this. I didn't think the clown was as effective.
No, the little clown. No, there were a
I
couple
didn't
of them,
think
right? There were a bunch.
there were, but there was that one main
The
one.
main one, yeah.
But yeah, that I mean, and I guess the fact that like, oh, there's more, that's supposed to be scary, but it wasn't because the clown wasn't as effective. That first
Right.
clown was
More is
terrifying.
not always more, right?
That's true. That's true.
Because like, but yeah, because that actually because they use the more is more in a lot of things, right? More hands in the TV, more clowns when they go
More
into
flashy things.
more flashy stuff, more spirits, just in general, right? Because like, I like the idea of them sending a drone into the other side. What it looked like was a different story.
Yeah, I love your take on this. Go ahead and say what you think. Like we've said this before when we've been chatting about the remake.
What the other side felt like? It
Yeah.
looked well. It kind of looked like a video game, right? Like it looked.
You said it was like an overgeneralized, like
It was very generic. It was
yeah,
very
generic.
like
That's the word you
it's
used was
very like
generic.
oh, okay, arms everywhere. It looked like a video game. It kind of looked like you would get like
It did look like a video
it looked
game.
like
You're
a
right.
2008 2009 Japanese remake. Like Pulse or like a white noise or
Yep.
like
Yep.
we're just gonna get these CGI ghost looking shadowy things and
Yep.
It's just like, again, for a video game, maybe it would have looked cool. Like for a movie, not so
We
much.
got too much, I think. Yeah, it was less on the family and more on the stuff, the other worldly stuff. And I think it just it lost a lot of stuff because of that.
Yeah, and then there was like the creepy like demon Madison that's like right, that like hopped on him. Um, because we know what's interesting. It's like Poltergeist really like the original laid
Mhm.
the groundwork for so much, right? To the point that it gets copied and changed around and blah blah blah. We get to the point of
Yeah.
pulse and white noise and all that. And then to have the remake just do what everyone else was doing, like that would have been an opportunity to like, okay, so Poltergeist defined the haunted house genre. How can we redefine it? Like that's what they really should have thought about going
And
into
it was
it.
more copy paste.
It was more like, oh, let's just do what everything else is,
Because it's successful. What I will
Yeah,
say though is even though the execution is severely lacking in this, what I can say is that I do think the people that handled this did handle it with respect and care. I think that
sure.
just their perspective on it, which is not always true in remakes or money grab
Hmm.
situations where people are like, oh, let's do this again because we know it's going to make money. This didn't feel like that. It just felt like they
No.
wanted it to be something that they just couldn't quite make it. And between like showing us too much all the time, we became
Yeah.
desensitized to the situation. The family stuff wasn't there. We get a couple really cool scenes. We get the one like with the dad and the son where they're sitting at the table and they're talking about fear. And
Mhm.
I thought that was really nice. And there's moments like that. And there's some funny I mean, Sam Rockwell's hilarious in general, but he has some really funny moments. And then even the way that they did the dynamic with the family, I mean with the parents, they did a really good job of kind of trying to like simulate like what we'd already seen before, but it was just it felt very shallow. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like it had a lot of depth to it. And so instead it was like, well, okay, fine, they love each other, but like, like that was it. Like you didn't feel the same sense of urgency, the same sense of dread, the same sense of overwhelm, like, oh my God, like our child is gone. Like it just didn't hit as hard. That they really missed the mark on this for the emotions. And I think like I could forgive the scary stuff if I had still cared about the family in the same way that I cared about the feelings. And
Sure.
I didn't. I just didn't. I mean, like there's a weird scene where he goes out and buys stuff they can't afford. Like there's just very like I
Yeah.
don't I don't know what it is. It's supposed to make it more real, maybe, but it's like it just kind of makes him seem like an asshole. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I get that hit. It's like him wanting to provide for his kids in a way that he can't. Right.
Yeah,
And
by
like
making their situation worse.
while making right while still making a bad decision.
That's
Right. I
rough.
mean,
Like, I don't know.
and that's the thing is the parents in the original weren't making bad decisions in the sense of like actively putting their family in danger, sort of.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know. They smoke marijuana and that's like the devil's lettuce. So
that's
just saying.
true.
I
It's,
love that scene so much. They're hysterical.
yeah,
Anyway,
the
sorry.
high
I'm just
dive.
joking. I
I
don't
mean,
feel that way for people that see this now and later. I don't actually feel that way. I'm just teasing. But anyway. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like just. I mean, yes, I mean, there's things in it that I enjoy. Like, I mean, there were nods to like Poltergeist 3, like the puddle was in also in this movie, so it was kind of cool that they at least like they paid homage to like a little bit of
The one in the
everything.
garage, right?
There was a puddle in the garage that the older sister was pulled through.
Pulled down into, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of nods, but that's kind of like the David Gordon Green method of like doing too many where it's like, okay, yeah, but we know, like do
Right.
something different, do something
You're just
new.
talking about the greatest hits. Throw sprinkle a couple in there, but
Yeah, some nods here and there are fine, but and then like, and I will say, like, I do really like this ending.
Mhm.
I think the ending's great. And I am like I love ghost shows, like ghost hunting stuff, like love it. And so like I really loved the concept that this like his take on this house is clean like was very cool and more modern and I really dug that.
Mhm.
So there's elements in this that are great,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's just not there's something about the execution in this that just left me feeling like
Did you watch there's a director's cut. Did you watch
no, probably
No.
not.
Yeah, I think I have the director's or I've only bought it because I didn't buy it originally. I bought it when I knew that there was a director's cut coming out. I think it came with both. There's like
Yeah.
I want to say there's like 5 to 10 minutes extra in it. Um,
Overall, or like at the end?
like sprinkled throughout.
Throughout. Okay.
So there's a couple of more like family scenes and moments. I think I don't remember
Do you
specific.
think
I'd
they
have
should
to
have left him in?
probably. I think right. I think you definitely if it was character focused, they
Mhm.
would have benefited from that.
Mhm.
But the story wasn't. I mean, it didn't really change the story as much.
Sure.
Like like what we got was what we got, right?
Oh, and you know what? We haven't talked about that really awkward ass dinner scene where the husband and wife go to dinner with the neighbors,
Mm,
and he's like, and what they're sitting there, and then it comes up like the way that this was handled, the properties were built on, and like all these things, and he's like, wait, what? Like, and he starts going like that was such a. I didn't like that delivery as much as I liked the delivery from the first one.
no, no. The
It was
reveals don't
not
work
great.
because I feel like we know the reveals. If you're just going to copy what you know,
Instead of, because again, this could have been a remake and it could have still been an original concept. It didn't have to be
sure.
the same thing. I don't know.
Well, it's like the thing is like they took the original kind of reasons, but they took
Mhm.
out the scariest part of it, which was the beast, and
Yes.
you just left the well. We built it on a cemetery. Now the dead people are upset.
And people are cranky.
Right. Like, we woke up the spirits. There's, I mean, you took out like the most menacing part. I think that's really what kind of downplayed it a lot. But like you said, like
Yeah.
I don't mean to just crap on this movie, right? I think like there's some stuff to enjoy.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot to enjoy.
And
But
I
by
think
comparison,
if you've never seen the originals, you'll probably appreciate it on a different level anyway. And the plus side to this, right? And I always say this, and Scott always says it's about remakes, but like it's one of those things where it's like the very least, I hope that it brought people into the other movies if they'd never seen them. Like I'm
oh yeah,
hoping that people saw this and were like, oh, that was pretty good. Like, oh, let's go check out the others. And then it opened them up to this opportunity to
yeah,
see the origins of where this remake came from, because I think that it has, like I said, things that it does really well, but it just did not capture the feeling that the originals
yeah.
did. And that sucks, because that to me, and I've said that probably 50 times this live, but like that to me is what makes the franchise so strong.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
don't
missing.
know if that Russo brothers one is ever going to come in, but I mean, I would hope, right?
I would be
Um,
open to, yeah. I mean, even if it wasn't them, even if it was somebody, I would be open to more. I'm not opposed to it at all. I
yeah.
don't think that the remake did the worst job. There's some really
No, their heart
bad
is in the right
remakes,
place.
but
There's
I
some
think
bad remakes.
that, yeah, and it definitely wasn't something like the remake of Black Christmas. I mean, yeah, Black Christmas, where you're like,
What?
y'all just wanted something in your bank and that's about it. But no, like I think that like this was definitely handled with love and respect. They just couldn't get there. Like there's just
The
things that are
spark was
missing.
missing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of anything else. I mean, yeah, I'd be curious. Like I said, like if they do like a quasi sequel, I don't think they. I would avoid trying the straight up remake. I would go the requel route. Go like the sequel, legacy sequel kind of thing,
Yeah.
or the kind of somewhat connected in the same world
Yeah.
sort of route. Like you don't have to necessarily just tell the same story, and maybe that's what you don't really want to do. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree.
Trying to think of anything else about the remake. I think I'm tapped out on that. I don't know.
No. That's probably, we talked about that the least amount of time. But to
Yeah,
be fair, I knew that was probably gonna happen because we have a
yeah.
lot of love for the others.
Leave
So
it on a sour note. Let's go talk about the first one again.
yeah. But no, I mean, I love the Poltergeist franchise. I really
Yeah,
do. I hope that if there's people who haven't seen it that are horror fans, that they get around to watching them, because I think that they have a lot to offer.
absolutely. Like I think you were talking about like the younger people maybe having seen the remake first. I know
Mm.
my younger cousins saw the remake first. I don't know. I have
Oh,
to
I'm
ask
sure there's
her.
a lot of people like that.
Yeah, like because I mean Gen Z, right? So they're not growing up with like 70s and 80s the way that like Gen X and millennials were. Like they're kind of
Sure.
right. Unless they're being shown it, right? I mean, that's the thing is like I don't, like I think parents have to be willing to like, here's your movie lesson for the day, right?
Yeah.
because you don't really
Yeah.
just catch things on TV anymore.
Yeah, it's not as easy to discover these things. You have to actively seek them out
And
now.
that's the thing is like I'm just channel surfing, and like some channel was playing Poltergeist, and then the rest was history.
Yeah. And I think ours was a rental
Mm-hmm.
when we watched it because it would have been in the 90s, early 90s when I saw it for the first time.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. I mean, yeah. I love the franchise. The remake it's fine, I guess, but it's definitely left me wanting more
Mm-hmm.
of
It's not,
something that it
not the
just
go-to
didn't quite
rewatch.
satisfy. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't rewatch it. I mean, the only one I probably rewatch yearly is the original. Right. I mean, that's like
That's the best.
I watch it at least once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes more. It's
I
if
got the
Mhm.
this time last year, Walmart had, and I don't know if they've done them again this year, but they had those black and like bloody orangey colored
Is
covers.
it like the black and kind of like? Isn't it black and green? Isn't it kind
No,
of like
it's
your
orange. It's like an orange red, like a red
orange?
orange color.
Oh, okay.
But it's like black and red orange or whatever. And they had the Poltergeist trilogy in that. They had the
Mm,
Universal Monsters one. I wanted that one so bad. But anyway, so that's the set that I own is the orange and black
very cool.
Halloweeny looking ones. I don't know if they did them again this year, but it was really cool last year. It was like, did I send you a picture of it when I bought it?
I think so. I think you did.
I was on my way to Mothman. So I was on my way to Virginia.
Oh, yeah. It sounds
Yeah.
about right.
So I took picture. I'm pretty sure I took a picture and sent it to you because I was like, oh, I got this. But anyway, but yeah, so it's like, can you believe we've known each other that long?
I mean, since before my son was born,
Yeah.
right?
First of 2021. Two. What year
Uh,
is this?
We're in
Two.
23 right now. So it's
Yeah.
22.
22. We've known each other for like a year and a half.
Wow. That is wild. Time flies. Time really flies.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky says that sounds dope.
What
Because
sounds dope?
the DVD set that you're talking about, I think.
Oh, he's a Funko Pop collector.
Ooh.
He has like so many.
I don't have that. I got my horror ones up over here, which you can't really
No,
see.
you don't even understand.
Oh, he's by walls of.
He has like Rick, if you're Rick, don't you have like a storage unit or something with a bunch of them in it or something like that? He has like a fuck ton. And like they're all different. Like he has like not just horror ones, but like other ones too.
Oh yeah, some people try to get old like because they all come in waves, right? All sets,
Yep.
and they're all numbered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I only have like a handful of horror ones, and then I have my Power Ranger ones up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have some.
Yeah, he needs a storage, like a storage,
Yeah.
he needs a storage unit.
Yeah, he has so many. And he's like always posts them. I'm like, they're so cool. He has like the really fun ones, like those yellowy, like the ones that look like they glow in the dark, and like, I mean, so many different ones. Crazy.
They do a lot of special edition, like shiny ones or like rainbow ones for Pride. I've seen ones like that. Like they do, they do some wild
He
variation.
said he's a fan of too many fandoms. Yeah.
That's what'll get you. And you try to collect everything.
Buffy ones, duh. And I
Mhm.
have horror ones. I think that's it. They're still in a box though. Black light ones. That's it. The black light ones. But yeah, I have them, but they're all in boxes still. I never took them out. I don't have anywhere to put them. So they're still in boxes. But
I also have Star Wars pops, but they're like in they're not out. They're like in a little thing over there.
I also think I have maybe BioShock ones.
Like a Big
I don't
Daddy.
have a Big Daddy though, because they are expensive. I have a little sister somewhere.
The Big Daddy pops are expensive. Is it because are they out of
they're expensive.
or out of production?
Yeah, I don't know, but they're expensive. I went to get one time and I was like, or not. They're expensive.
Are they small ones or are they like the big one, like how I have Michael?
No, they're normal size ones.
Oh, okay.
I did have a giant Batman one, but that became Oliver's. Anyway,
I do love that they make pops of different sizes now. Like you have the giant one, but then they also do like pop vehicles.
That's the other thing. I also have Batman. I have Batman and some of the villains. I think I have Catwoman, and Joker. I want to say I have a couple more, but anyway, those are the ones that I have. That's it though. That's me. Video games, horror, Buffy, Batman.
Very nice.
Me in a nutshell. Mhm.
Too much stuff to explain.
Oh.
Me in a nutshell, but yes.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I think that's everything on Poltergeist. I mean, I could certainly go micro into very specific parts of it, but I think for our first live, I think we covered a lot.
yeah. No, we did. We did good. We
I
stayed
think
on
there's only
topic
4
like
movies. Could you imagine
the
if it was like 8
entire time.
movies?
Yeah. True. We did good. We stayed on task the whole time. There was almost no tangents. That shows you how much we love this franchise.
Yeah, we only went on one tangent about your drug drink,
My mushroom
your shroom drink, your floating drink.
technically they're my girlfriend's drug drink, but she sent me some to try. The peach mango is definitely better than the watermelon lime.
I don't like fake watermelon flavor, and that's like because it's like
I
it's
normally
never.
do.
Hmm?
I normally do. I think it was the lime that was throwing me off.
Well, because it angers me that it doesn't taste like water. Because it's usually like you get that like sour watermelon flavor, and it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't taste like you're biting into a watermelon, right? It's like
Yeah.
what is this sour flavor that everyone keeps reproducing?
Yeah, sure.
Like what is?
Yeah.
It's not a watermelon. What are you making? What's happening?
Yeah. And I think one of the other flavors was like black cherry or blackberry
I
something. I
like
would
black
probably
cherry sweet.
love that one. But this one's good. The peach, was it what I say? Peach mango. So I have
Mhm.
one more of these and one more of the watermelon lime ones.
Do you ever have like the speaking of black cherry, you ever have like the Dr. Brown's black cherry soda?
Mm-mm.
Do you have that near you down you? They have it in supermarkets. It's like a pinkish kind of can. It almost has like an old timey label.
I don't know. Maybe.
If you're ever in the supermarket, look for in the soda section, look for like a Dr. Brown's black cherry. It is so freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like black cherry and blackberry and regular cherry. All right, cool. Well,
All things that my husband is allergic to.
oh no.
Cherries, berries, and nuts. It's like and apple skins and carrots and yeah, poor guy. He walks into like a garden and just like he's not like EpiPen bad, but like he will just like itch and like get
Oh
all crazy.
no. Ugh, that sounds miserable though.
Ugh, I know. I don't envy him.
No, me neither.
But
Cool.
but yeah.
Well,
So I know we're gonna have another live in about a month from now. I don't know if we have a date set for it yet, but
the 24th, the Tuesday before Halloween.
see you. They thank God for you because
Well, I think they probably just remember it because one, we knew we couldn't do it on Halloween because
Right.
we have plans and our real in our other lives. And then because I was talking to someone about being a guest for that one. So
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
so it's like it's super fresh because that was literally just today, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Today?
you put up
I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, so the 24th, we're going to do our Halloween live. We'll be dressed up, talking our Halloween movie picks, seasonal picks, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
Totally.
I'm probably gonna just wear the costume that I'm wearing with my husband and our son. Yeah, I think so. Make it easy rather than getting a whole second costume.
Yeah, because that stuff's not cheap. It's expensive.
No, but I actually might dye my hair for it then.
Oh, okay.
Because if I still have the blonde here, it'll be easy.
It'll stick. Yeah.
It'll stick. It'll be easy to throw something on it. So I might actually dye for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be fun. And then this
things
week
to
we
look forward
have, what else do we have this week? Friday, I have Found Footage Fridays. We're
Mhm.
talking Apollo 18. What do you have this week?
And
We have
more
Coffee
Coffee
Crypt on
Crypt.
Sunday. Yep.
Coffee Crypt on Sunday.
Yep.
Let's see. My Daryl Dixon recap is out from this past Sunday. We're getting American Horror Story comes back tomorrow, so I'll have a review reaction for that on Thursday. And then I think that's it. Chucky doesn't come out for a little while, so I'll be covering that. Well, we will be covering that.
I'm so pumped.
Chucky takes the White House. I
watched the trailer and I was like, deceased the whole time.
Bonkers.
That bit about the Wi-Fi where he's like on the phone, he's like, believe it or not, the Wi-Fi is not great here.
Right, right. It's so funny. I'm like
Yeah.
checking my TV tracker, but yeah, so we got Daryl Dixon will be ongoing for 6 weeks, and then we got American Horror Story returns, then eventually Chucky,
Yeah.
and
And then you're gonna do
then
the ones where you do some together, right? Like Veil, Shining Veil,
Shining Vale and Creep Show.
Creep
Although you
Show.
know what, I have screeners for Creep Show, so I'm gonna probably
Oh,
pre.
that's right.
So those might even eventually just get their own individual because I'm thinking if I have,
Mm.
I'm just gonna do them all. I'll either do it as like a season. Well, no, because they're embargoed. So I will
Are
just
they
pre-record
embargoed
them.
per episode or
They're
just like,
embargoed per episode.
ah,
Yeah, so I
dang
might just record
it.
them all together and then just chop it up,
Really sit.
which will be
Yeah.
it'll be fine. It'll be ready for everyone. It'll be super easy.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yep, yep.
Well, I think that's going to wrap it for our September/Poltergeist Live. Thanks everybody for watching and people in the chat who stopped by and said a few things. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. It was a blast, guys.
Yeah. All right. So you guys enjoy the rest of your week coming up. Have a good weekend. And Steve and I will see you real soon.
See you soon.